What are you doing? What? Well, that's not in my notes. That's not in my notes! Welcome, scholars, storytellers, and fellow babysitter DMs. This is the Level Up Corner, led by yours truly, Wizo, as we delve into all the tips and tricks about Dungeons and Dragons. Today's topic is, how do you improv on the fly? It's a very difficult question that many DMs can't answer easily. But before we go into answering this question, we must define what improving is. I know most of you probably understand what improving is, but there are a few DMs out there who are new or just never really understood the idea of improv properly. Now, improv is short for improvisation, which in its most technical definition is making stuff up. That's all improv is making stuff up. And you might think, well, Wizo, in our last episode on prepping for a session, definitely should watch that, we prepared for an entire session. We even prepared for 2 to 3 sessions. So how much should I even improv? Less than 10%, right? 20? 30? Well, I would say that most sessions have a healthy rate of 60% of it being improv. I'm going to let you dwell on that for a second. 60% of a session is improv. Now, this isn't a bad thing, and this doesn't mean that your preparation was all in vain, because you are only able to improv on the fly due to your preparation. Exactly. It doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it just on the surface. I mean, I prepped for the session, so how could that help me with improv, Wizo? Well, because you understand the environment, the NPCs, the plot, and everything going on, you're able to adapt and adjust to just about anything the players do. We even gave some examples of improv in our previous episode. We gave some examples of how when the players try to look for the farmer's brother, well, he's a farmer. He probably has a brother down the road in this small town, so he has a brother named Bill. Why not? You've already got the tools you need if you have prepared for the session. If you have prepared for the session, you should be golden to improv. But there are a few more concerns. Mostly when to improv and how to improv. After all, we're asking, how do you improv on the fly, rather than just what is improv? How you improv, aside from using the environment in your preparation, is by going with the party. Now, you don't make up all these new situations. You made a good stack of notes. You took some time. A lot of time. Too much time to make this stack of notes. So why go against them? Stick to what you have prepped. Keep it all simple for yourself. And let the players be the oddballs. Let the players be the ones who decide, you know what? We're going to start an orphanage cultist. First, what does that even mean? Second, why? Third, how? I'm very interested. So players will come up with crazy ideas like this, where you need to first figure out what their intentions are. This is probably the most important part of improving, is you need to know why the players are doing what they're doing. Why are they going off script and creating this orphanage cultist, whatever that means? Or maybe they're intending for it to be a cult based on orphans, or orphans in a cult, whatever. You need to figure out why this is happening. Do they think it's a cool idea? Do they want to gain more power? Do they want to gain more wealth, etc.? And once you understand the why, once you understand the strange mentality that is going on in that weird player's brain, then you can decide, as a neutral arbiter, how much of this can go on. Now, what I mean by a neutral arbiter is when the players are not there in the town, doing quests, saving the world, etc., the world goes on. If the players didn't save that farmer, he would have died, and the town would have gone on. If the players weren't there to save the town would have been destroyed, and the world would have gone on. You get the idea. The players are the center of your world and your campaign. Do not ever let them feel like they're insignificant, because they aren't. Their actions change things. They saved that farmer. They saved that town. They did a lot, and they're able to make the world a better place because they exist. But the world does not revolve around them. It continues on. At least, your world should be solid enough. Your environment solid enough. Your preparation, the local laws, customs, everything else that you need should be solid enough that the world can go on. And this, my friends, is where you will need to make a neutral arbiter's decision. If the players are making a cult of orphans in order to sacrifice them, the townspeople aren't going to be happy. They are going to try to rise up against the players. This creates a whole new plot line. They may try to stop them. The players may start to turn a good leaf. Anything else. You can create a whole new plot piece centered on what players do. But the players do not control the world. They impact it, but they do not control it. This is a very important difference. And you as a neutral arbiter will adjust to the players' whims and antics based upon your preparation. Now, this is a fine line to walk, mind you. We don't want to get into a railroad scenario. We'll talk about railroading potentially in the future, but in short, railroading is when you force the players down a specific route. You don't want to do that with your improv. You don't want to force them where they're going. Improv is supposed to let the world be more open. Let the world be more fun. Go along with the players' antics. And if they go too far, yes, you will have to smack them as a neutral arbiter, because what they're doing is absolutely insane. The threat of consequences should be there. Without the threat of consequences, well, players won't feel that the world's real, because it's not. It's just manufactured for their own enjoyment rather than a living and breathing world that will go on. But on small things is when you should almost always go with the players. That's when you should almost always improv. And how you improv is you let the players lead. Going back to that part, yes. If the players want to figure out where the merchant is who sells the pumpkin spice, why not let there be one? I know you did not write a merchant who sold pumpkin spice in your notes. I know you didn't. And if you did, you're insane, or you know your players too much and you need help. But I guarantee you didn't do something like that. If your players even want to come up with a cool quest, let's say they for some reason really want to go sewer delving, you could make them try to find a small trinket in the sewer. You could come up with it very quickly. And you could even come up with a whole separate plot line if you're experienced enough. Now, this is an important part, and it is to understand your own skill. Some of us could technically improv an entire session. I've done it before, but it's not good to do because that will lead to problems later on. If you improv an entire session, you'll have issues with your plot. You might forget very important details that you place into the works that your players won't forget, and it's just not smart to improv a few things. Plot is one of them. But if you are experienced enough, a very big caveat there, if you're experienced enough and you have enough faith in yourself, you can improv entire side quests, encounters, and even environments. Now, usually this is another caveat that you have already pre-prepped these things before. Remember how in a previous episode we talked about that sometimes you probably won't use everything in your preparation. These players might bypass it and you can reuse it. This is the time to reuse it. You have new encounters for your players. You have a whole extra plot line, which was scrapped and can be reused here. If you have enough experience, you can do this almost indefinitely because you have an almost infinite number of plots, environments, and, well, encounters that the players have bypassed. This is why it is under the caveat of having enough experience to create and improv an entire side plot. Very quickly, you will have enough experience and reusable prep work that you can create improv side plots on the fly. But that's a more advanced thing that I wouldn't expect of any new DM or even many experienced DMs. It is hard to do. But that leads us to our last point on how to improv. How you improv is to only go as big as you are comfortable with. If you are not comfortable with adding a new element to your plot, don't. Try to stick with what you know. If the players want to add an element about the dragons coming in and that they found dragon bones, which obviously means that dragons are involved, you can either go along with it because you're comfortable with that, with your skills and with that plot line, or you can say, this doesn't fit. As a neutral arbiter, this does not fit the plotline. Even though it would be cool to have dragons be a part of what's going on in the political discourse, it just doesn't make sense. And you have the right to refuse because you're not comfortable with it, or it just doesn't make sense. So be the best neutral arbiter you can be and have the most fun with your improv as possible. I hope that I have helped you figure out how do you improv on the fly, primarily through preparation, being a neutral arbiter, following your players, and only doing what you're comfortable with a caveat based upon your experience. But don't let me be the only one to tell you how do you improv on the fly. Leave a comment down in the comment section down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so that we can reach more DMs out there and keep giving you wonderful content. Always remember that your players love you, and keep rolling, my friends. Keep rolling.